um, thank you guys, much appreciated. So I am recording, so don't say anything you wouldn't say in a court of law, that kind of thing. So yeah, going to be recording the bulk of it now. Thank you. Right. So yeah, I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and then we'll build a very simple experiment on Gorilla using the resources that I've shared with you, and I'll try and field any questions, and I'll show you how you can pop it up on Sonar. If you've just done the Qualtrics one, it's pretty similar. It's the same kind of deal where you have to put a little bit of code at the end, that kind of thing. But Gorilla does take you through it step by step. So I am, and as true to the training earlier, there are cats meowing and dogs barking. So I apologise for that. I'm just going to share my entire screen, so you might get some random stuff in there. So just going to close these two here. So what we need to do first of all is get into Gorilla. So if you go to Google and you search for Gorilla SC, now obviously there's a lot of, if you just search for Gorilla, you are going to get a lot of pictures of gorillas and information about gorillas and random things like that. So make sure that you put SC in there and it will take you to the Gorilla homepage. You should be looking at something that looks a little bit like this. I'm just going to log out so you know, you kind of see it as it is. So up in the top right hand page, there is a little thing there that says login. So just hit that and it should take us to the login page. So you will need to contact us for a Gorilla account. I think you can create a Gorilla account and then request that we add you to our subscription. If you aren't on our subscription, we've got an unlimited subscription. If you do it yourself and you don't contact us and we don't add you, then you will have to pay per participant to collect data, but we've got an unlimited subscription, so you won't have to do that. So let's just make sure we can log in. So if you have got a login, just try and log in. And you should be looking at something fairly similar to this. It might be slightly different. I've got some admin stuff in there. But if you can just give that a go. Steph's making accounts if anyone hasn't got an account, let her know and she can add you. Just while I give you sort of time to add accounts, I did also want to show you on our Canvas site where you can find Gorilla information, and we've got quite a lot of Gorilla information. It just sounds so weird, just keep saying Gorilla. So if you go to your dashboard on Canvas, you should have the psychology technicians. If you don't have that, you will need to contact us because we will need to manually add you to Canvas. It's not an automatic enrollment. We get a list at the start of the year and we do try and add everyone, but sometimes for whatever reasons, some people, you know, may not get added, but you just need to let us know and we can add you. So if you go to the psychology technicians page on, we haven't Gorilla yet because Gorilla's relatively new. So you just need to go to modules, and then we've got Gorilla just here. We've got some really good information, and we've also got a webinar recording which was provided by the people who actually make webinar. Our other online experiment platform, LabVanced, also has some information there. We expect, I kind of expect more people to use Gorilla than LabVanced, just so this is kind of why we're running these two big training sessions on here. So we will add this seminar as well, but this is quite a nice set of introduction to Gorilla. So do make sure that you work through these resources as well. Okay, so I'm going to move back to Gorilla itself. So the way Gorilla works, you create a project, and within that project you'll create almost your experimental flow, and the actual elements of experiments you create separately. So if you just click on projects, I imagine yours will be empty. Now I've got a project that I created here, which I'm going to kind of use as the example project. I created it for Helen Keyes for her research module. It might be something, as you guys are third years, you may have done this in the classroom, and we had to move it to an online platform. So this kind of experiment might actually be you might recognize it. So I'm just going to walk you briefly through that experiment, and then we're going to build an experiment together. Just like Qualtrics, you can collaborate your experiment and your projects with your supervisors, and we highly recommend that you do, so that you can work on them collaboratively and they can check them. So I'm just going to go into this project. This is a complete project where it thinks it's in French. Strange. This is a complete project where we have completed, we collected data from, I believe it's all the second years, about the gender of faces. Like I say, as if you're third years, you probably did this in a classroom on ePrime as opposed to on Gorilla. ePrime, excuse me, does now have an online version. So just as a side note, if anyone here is masters or PhD or researchers, and they've already got your, if you've already got your experiment on ePrime, there is now something called ePrime Go, where you can essentially run an ePrime experiment online. If you're starting from scratch, it's probably easier to build it in Gorilla. If you want certain things like standard paradigms, like, I don't know, a Stroop test or something like that, again, Gorilla's a really good option because it has a lot of examples already created. So just to give you a bit of an overview, the experiment is the overall flow of the actual experiment and how you distribute it. The tasks and questionnaires are the sort of experimental bits. So this is the actual experimental task, and this is an intro survey. So I'm just going to click on the experiment bit so you can see this area here. So this was a very simple experiment. It essentially, everybody did the same condition. There was no real counterbalancing or anything along those lines. We literally got all of the second years to do exactly the same kind of thing. So everybody, all groups started here, and they did the questionnaire, which asked them questions about, I think it was their gender. It might have been their age as well. I can't remember, but we'll go and have a look at that in a second. And this was the actual experimental task where they had to basically press one button if they thought the face was a female, and one button if they thought the face was a male, and then the experiment concluded. So this area here is where you can make quite complex combinations depending upon like what you want to do in your experiment. You might want everybody who's left-handed to do one questionnaire and then a task, everyone who's right-handed to do a different questionnaire and a task, and then they all finish at the end. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. In order to edit one of these, you quite simply, I'm just going to cancel the changes here. Okay, when you actually look at it, you'll see what version I'm updating. There was I'd had 3 versions before, and if you wanted to change this or add some bits and pieces, you just click on edit, and it's quite nice because you can drag and drop. So let's say I wanted to add a randomizer. Sorry, it's not drag and drop, you click on it. Apologies, I was thinking of Qualtrics there. So maybe this group is the left-handed group, and the ratio of people, I want 10 people to go into that group. Okay, I can click it to be balanced, so either person 1 goes into that group, person 2 goes into another group, etc, 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 or you can click it to be truly random. So that would mean like 5 people in a row could go into group 1, and then it alternates. Okay, I don't want to actually add that. You've also got things like counterbalancing in here. If you want a delay in between these tasks, so you might want a minute delay if you're doing some kind of memory task. You can build up quite complex experiments. Before you actually do any kind of experiment, hopefully you will have worked through your ethics application, and you should kind of scribble down or write down a flow of what exactly you want to happen at what point. It can be on a bit of scrap paper, and do you know what I mean? Just scribble it down, get what's in your head down there. So if you want 2 groups doing different tasks, or you want to have the same group doing one task followed by another task, etc, etc, just make sure you in your head you know it how you want it to flow. Today we're going to create something very, very simplistic that kind of looks like this, to be honest with you. Everybody is going to start from the same point. They're going to do the same questionnaire, they're going to do the same experimental task, and they're all going to finish at the same. Like I say, if you do need to do something more complex, you can always contact us. We also have support from Gorilla if it's incredibly complex. You can achieve anything, because if there isn't a node to do it, you can actually use JavaScript to program Gorilla to basically do whatever you want. So once you've designed your flow, you would then go to your recruitment stage. So this experiment recruited from Qualtrics. The likelihood is you are going to recruit from Sona, and you would just select the recruitment policy there to say, I want it to go through Sona. You're probably going to want to set your time limit to a point where you've got enough time to analyze your data, or however long you want to run the experiment for. You can set up people, you can set up quotas. So for example, you want a certain amount of females, you can set that up, and in the questionnaire at the start you can ask them whether they're male or female, and you can reject them or exclude them based upon their responses to that. You can also change their device types. Okay, so if this is really important if you've got if timing's really important to you, because you can set up things such as the connection speed. I mean, it's in beta, but like you could set it like a minimum of 15 megabytes per second, etc., and that would exclude certain people from taking part, but it would make sure that your that the browser is quick enough. Multiple. Yeah, I'm pretty certain you can. You might need to sorry, Chloe. Chloe asked whether we can get participants from more than one place. I would kind of do what I did with Qualtrics, as in duplicate your study and then set up different recruitment policies once you've got it set up, just to sort of almost keep the data separate. And you probably don't need to do that, because like here you can set up separate groups, and you can set up so you could have like a Qualtrics group, and you could have a Sona group, etc., etc. I like to keep my data separate, because one of the things I've noticed is the quality of data differs between different places where you get people recruited from. Quite often social media is a bit crap. Also, there's a couple of places like Survey Circle. I don't know if you've heard of Survey Circle, where if you go and answer a load of questionnaires, you can then recruit people from there as well. Things like Prolific as well. You can use your Prolific credit if you go and answer a load of questionnaires to actually pay people to answer your questionnaire as well. So I would recommend having everything set up separately, but I don't think you have to. I think you can set up different groups, and with each group you can have a different recruitment policy. I'll have a look in the help file for you at the end of this, so just remind me at the end of the training, and we'll come back to that. Participants, okay. So this is where you can check your participants' progress, how far they've got through your actual questionnaire. Now, on this particular one, we needed to link the Qualtrics data with the Gorilla data. So I embedded a data field in Qualtrics that was then passed on just here with this response ID to Gorilla. Now, most of you will be using Sona to recruit, or just social media, so you just have to follow the instructions. Do you need to use Qualtrics and Gorilla for our resource? No, you don't need to use both, Ryan. The reason we use Qualtrics and Gorilla is because we already had our survey in Qualtrics built. So we decided, we were a bit lazy. So we decided that we would just do the experimental bit in Gorilla, which we used to do in ePrime, and we would use what we already had in Qualtrics. So Gorilla can do surveys. It can do simple surveys. It's not as intuitive, I don't think, for surveys. So if you want to do something, if you've got a really complex survey and then you want to do an experiment, you may be better off using both. If it's just demographics or like a quick psychometric or something like that, you can pretty much get away with doing it all in Gorilla. So you wouldn't necessarily need to use both of them. I will demonstrate the survey component on Gorilla in a second. So you can kind of make a decision from there. So once your participants have all completed your survey, you can then go to data, and you can manage the data, and you can see what how many responses you've got, if you've deleted any of them, and how many people have finished. The key is just up there, and you can go to manage experiment data, and this is where you can generate your data. Now, this it doesn't have an export to SPSS as far as I'm aware. XLSX is obviously Excel, or comma separated values you can also use in Excel. The way that I use do this, I tend to download stuff into Excel, clean it up, and then put the variables that I want into SPSS and build it from there. But you might use a different statistical analysis software. You know, I'm a bit old school. I quite depressingly, I did my undergraduate degree nearly 20 years ago. So like everyone used SPSS. I'm aware there's other platforms now, things like R and stuff like that. So do you know what I mean? Like you may want to start with a comma separated a CSV file, and then you can select the data that you want and extract the data. You might just be interested in correct answers. You might just be interested in reaction time. That's completely up to you, but we'll look at generating that data when we've built our experiment. So that's the overall project page. If we then go back to projects, okay, and I'll go back in here, you can see that these two tasks, this is what makes up the overall experiment, okay? So I'll click on this one first because this is a survey and this is pretty straightforward. So I'll click the faces intro, and this is just a really simple little survey for what is your age and what is your gender, okay? And to edit this, like I say, it's a lot more simplistic than Qualtrics. You can probably achieve quite a lot, but I am a big fan of Qualtrics in terms of sort of complex surveys. So looking down here, you can just add a question here. It's a widget, and it's kind of similar to, you know, they're kind of called the same as the Qualtrics one. So rich text, text entry, a drop-down box, consent box, date entry, height, weight, email, etc. There's no live preview on the actual thing when you hover over, so you've kind of got to be aware of that. I'm just going to close out that because we will create one. And once you select the type, so this one's a text entry, you can pop in the question text, and you know, it kind of asks you for all the bits and pieces. So the key, the participant's response will be stored in the metrics with this key to help you analyze it later. So I just called that participant age. Excuse me. Right to embedded data. This allows you to kind of query it in your experiment, in your overall experiment. So if you wanted 21-year-olds to in one group and 26-year-olds in another group, if you select right to embedded data, then you can basically separate these people into different groups, and this allows them to leave the question unanswered. Scrolling down here, what is your gender? I did this as a drop-down list, and you just here include text entry option for other, and that allows you to enter other. So it's a lot more simplistic than Qualtrics, but let's get rid of that. It's not as powerful. So if you've got some simple demographics that you need to answer before they do a questionnaire, then it's really, really good for that. If you need to branch things based upon various answers and have all very complex, you know, quotas and passing things through URLs and bits and pieces like that, for example, like we do with Ethicsbot, then you're probably better off using Qualtrics. How about the anxiety questionnaire that has 21 questions? I think that is it on a Likert scale? Like on a, yeah, okay. Sorry, dog number 2's going nuts now. I think that's Amazon, but they should just leave it at the door. So we'll just, I clicked the contactless delivery. So there we go. Okay. So yeah, I think you should be able to do that. So You're all going to laugh at my dog's name now. Blueberry. Blue. Yeah, his name is Blueberry. Okay, so I'll just go down here and just make sure that we've got that widget. So I think there's a rating scale Likert question here. I've not actually used this, so we'll just have a quick look at what it looks like. Question text. So it looks like you could do this for each one of the items and have 21 of those in a row. It looks like you have to do one of these rating scale / Likert for each one. So it might be a bit of a pain in the bum. So you might want to do that on Qualtrics and send it over. Are you separating people into different groups based upon their anxiety score, or does everybody have to do the same sort of experimental element? So like high anxiety and low anxiety groups?
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'll stop just texting.
Yeah.
High anxiety and low anxiety.
And do they do different tasks based upon their anxiety, or do they go or do they do the same thing in Gorilla?
So two different tasks, and then like a stop distance task to measure reactions, and then the anxiety level will be put into groups higher and lower after that.
Okay, so but does everybody has to do all of the tasks?
No. So
No? Okay.
So it's two different tasks, and they'll be split randomly.
Right. Okay. Cool. And what are those tasks like? What do you need them to do in those tasks?
So they'll view two different media content slides. One will have, say, something that should invoke more anxiety, and one should have something that invokes less anxiety. And then you should be able to see that within a stop distance task and measure the boundaries.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So the way I would do this, and you're probably going to want to book an appointment with myself or Steph just to sort of get it done. So I would use Qualtrics to do the anxiety question, and then I would split them based upon the score of that to two different blocks within Qualtrics to watch the two different videos.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, the reaction time task, that's the same for everyone?
Yes. Yeah.
And that will be done in Gorilla. So then feed it into Gorilla after that. So it sounds really complex, but it is actually relatively straightforward. So I would build your first bit in Qualtrics and then pass it on into Gorilla. Okay. But if you send us an email, I can book an appointment with you at some point next week to kind of just run through it if you want.
Fantastic. Thanks,
cool.
Carolyn.
No problem. Okay, cool. So yeah, so this is the questionnaire bit, nice and simple if you just want to do something fairly simple. So we're going to have a quick look now at the experiment part, which is this bit here. I call it faces. And the experiment part is actually really straightforward. You create a task structure of roughly what you want to happen. You then create a spreadsheet which allows it to randomize and has certain information about files in there. You then upload your stimuli, and then you've got other bits and pieces here. Script is where you can script really complex stuff using JavaScript, and manipulations is essentially where you can say, based upon this response, send this participant here. We won't be using really the manipulations in the script today. We're just going to create something relatively straightforward. You might need to use those if you've got something really, really complex, but again, we can kind of help you with that. So the overall task structure, the experiment for Helen is really, really straightforward. We show an instruction screen. They then see a fixation screen, followed by a face with 2 options. And it goes through the spreadsheet until we've shown them all the images, and then we see an end screen. Our task today is basically going to be set up the same, except we're not going to be looking at faces. We're going to be looking at cats and dogs, and there's only 8 of them. And the response will be 1 response for cat and 1 response for dog. Now, the way you create lots of different trials is using a spreadsheet. Now, there's a really good help page on spreadsheets in Gorilla, and you can find it by clicking this little information sign up here. Whenever you're a bit stuck on Gorilla, there's a little eye up in the corner, and you can work through here. All of these give you information, and when you get to the end, it's like, need help? You can select the how-to task builder and the tooling reference and things like that. So if you're a little bit like, how on earth did Kara figure out what to put in the spreadsheet? I essentially went to this page, the walkthrough for spreadsheets, and it gives you lots of examples of different types of spreadsheets that you can do, and that's how you build it. You literally just create a CSV or an Excel file in Excel with all of how you want things to process. Now, I've sent you a spreadsheet today, but I will be explaining how it all works. So hopefully that should give you sort of an idea. It is kind of a little bit like, I think to begin with, to get your head around it, it can be a bit like, whoa. But it does kind of make sense. So this is the one that I did for Helen. You see here, display says what should be on the screen at any time. Randomized trials is what you want to be randomized together. So everything with a 1 can be randomized. Now, all of the 1s are the fixation screen, and the difference between all the fixation screens is how long they are on the screen for. So if you put a fixation up for like a second consistently, you tend to find people get used to clicking the button every second, and it becomes quite regimented, and you're probably not getting a really good accurate reaction time. So by changing the length of time and then randomizing these fixations. So this fixation was shown for 750 milliseconds. This one was for 760. And because they're all in trial 1, these were all randomized and mixed up. So it might have shown that fixation first, it might have shown that fixation second, but it will always do 1, then 2. 1, then 2. So if you've got 3 screens that you need to show, you will have 1, 2, and 3. So 1, it shows a random fixation from this random trial group. 2, it shows a random face from all of these number 2 trials. This is the correct answer for this particular thing. And this is some embedded data, so that when it downloads the data, we can tell whether the face, because the files have got kind of random names. These are all the female faces, and these are all the male faces. Correct answer for male was B, and correct answer for female was N. And because every single one of these faces, even the male ones, are in group 2, all of those were mixed up and randomized. And our spreadsheet won't be as long. There was a lot of pictures in this one, so there was a lot of a big old spreadsheet. And you essentially build this spreadsheet up so that it knows what to do after each trial. Stimuli is where you upload stimulus. There's some lovely looking mugs in here. This was a random face database that we got the faces from. It's kind of creepy because they've had the outsides, you know, no background and necks and stuff like that. So it's just these disembodied faces staring at you, and you just drag and drop those stimuli. But we'll be adding the stimuli to the experiment that you create. Manipulations. If you manipulations are essentially like every time it comes across a number 2 in the spreadsheet, then do a certain task. So you can send manipulations from your questionnaire, so based upon variables from your questionnaire, or you can include them in your spreadsheet. And script, this is literally just a JavaScript text editor. It's you can, if you want to do something very, very specific and you know how to use JavaScript, then you can type it in there. Most things you're not going to need, and for a lot of you, you aren't even going to have to create these experiments because Gorilla has a lot of experiments already pre-made. But I'm going to take you through how to kind of build an experiment. So if you get to your home page and you're logged in, so just go to projects, and we're going to create a new project up here. Now we're going to call this project, and you're going to build the project with me if you've got access to Gorilla. But then I'm going to share my project link with you. I'm going to get you guys to answer it so that I can download and show you how to download the data. We'll also try and get it up on Sona as well. So we're going to call this project cat or dog. Okay, it's quite a straightforward one. Hopefully you'll all get 100% on this. Just click OK. So the first thing we need to do is we'll create a very brief questionnaire to run at the start to see whether you're a cat person or a dog person, and we'll have a little look at the response time. So just here, click create, and then go down to questionnaire. Okay. We're going to create a new one, but if you want, you can clone any kind of existing one if you've built stuff before. The other cool thing about this is look at all these classic tasks that are in there. So these are all, you know, questionnaires that are pre-built for you to use and include in your project. But we'll start from new here. So please enter a new name for, we'll call it cat or dog Q, and click OK. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little widget here. We're going to keep it all really, really simple. Just click that add widget here, and we're going to use a drop-down box. Oh, I'll tell you what, we'll create a consent box first. So click consent box, scroll down, and click create. And we'll just type in the question text there. I consent to take part. Oh, some interesting spelling going on there. Okay. So there we go. If you are using Gorilla only, and you want to include your consent forms, you can just add a rich text question, and you can just paste your consent form in there, and then add like a consent form at the bottom. You can also paste in there your participant information sheets if you're purely using Gorilla. You can also make it look pretty using markup for HTML. There is a really good guide just there on how to make things look pretty. Okay, so how you can add images, create lists and stuff like that. The cool thing with Gorilla is quite often wherever you see a little eye all around here, that will give you information about what you're doing. So I'm just going to write in there, this is a consent form, like so. And you can see it appearing here what the participant is going to see. So the next question I'm going to add, just here, we'll add a drop-down box and click create. And the question is going to be, do you prefer cats or dogs? So the options for this, you list the options you want to offer and then you separate them by a comma. So we will put cat, dog, both, neither. Okay. You can put a little bit of a prompt there so that it's like the first, you know, like please select. It defaults to please select, and you can check it out there in the live preview as well. So I'm pretty happy with that. I don't really need any kind of text entry there, so I'm not gonna do that. And I'm not gonna allow it to be missing because I want everyone to reply to that. So that's a really simple questionnaire where I've just got some simple demographics that I'm quite content with there. So I am going to commit version 1. So whenever you've edited something in Gorilla, you need to make sure that you have committed it. And when you do actually build your experiment at the end, you need to be mindful of which version you've included in that experiment. And I can give you a really good example. When me and Helen were building the faces experiment, I set up the questionnaire and I set up the experiment and I shared it to her and she was like, yeah, that's really cool, but I want you to remove one of the questions. I removed the question from the questionnaire, but because I was using version 2 instead of version 3 in the actual experiment flow, and I'll come back to this and show you this, it actually didn't update the question, and we probably spent 2 hours trying to figure it out, and eventually we figured it out. So let my mistake help you out on that one. So I'm quite happy with that, so I'm going to commit this to version 1. And I'm just going to put in there, please enter descriptions of changes you made. And I'm just going to put created questionnaire. This is a really cool thing where you build up different versions, because if it really goes horribly wrong, you can always return back to a different version that you've created. So we'll commit that. And this is version 1 of my cats or dogs question, and that's probably what we're going to use for that. So I'm going to go back to my project up here, cat or dog. And what I need to do now is actually create the experiment. Okay, so I'm going to add here where it says create, I am going to add a task. So a task builder task. If you're good with coding, you can go straight in and do it in Java. There is loads of help in the help files if you are a bit of a programmer. But this task builder, if you need to create an experiment that doesn't already exist, then use the task builder because it's visual. So we'll click on that. And we're going to start from new. So we're going to call it cat or dog. XP, because this is the experiment part. And we'll click OK. So it's a little bit daunting when you start with a completely empty screen. But the first thing pretty much that always happens is you're going to need to give your participants some kind of instructions. So we'll just click here, click the little plus. Please enter a name for your display. We'll call it instructions. And click OK. And this is my instruction screen. Now, I don't need my participant to have any kind of interaction on this. I just need them to read it. And once they're finished reading it, click a button to move on. So if you press this little plus here, okay, we can select what kind of screen we want our participants to see. So I'm going to use rich text. The difference between text and rich text is really plainly formatted, so you can't format it as nicely as rich text. It doesn't really matter which one you use. Both of them have a little button at the bottom. Or you can set it so that it moves on after a certain amount of time, but we're going to get our participants to press a button. So if you click on rich text, it'll be like a single block of markdown with continue button to progress. Okie dokie. Okay, so we've now created this screen called instructions and we want to edit it. So you literally hover over it and click on it. Then you will see your screen layout. This is where the text will appear, and this is our continue button. You can edit the layout if you want, so you can move things around. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it pretty simple because I'm quite happy with how that is. So I'm just going to click on there, and I'm going to... If you want static content, so if everybody sees the same kind of thing, then you literally just type it in there. You can also use things such as spreadsheets, so the text can change per stimulus or per group or whatever, but simply by putting that text in a spreadsheet. Manipulations will come from the actual experiment setup, so that could be the text is different based upon the questionnaire information. If it's an embedded field, like you put their name in it, okay, in a questionnaire, you took that name and then you wanted to display their name in this area of the experiment, you could do it through there. And spreadsheet manipulation is essentially just it will look up the manipulation and use information from the spreadsheet. Most of you are going to use static for text and spreadsheet for things like images and stuff like that, or colors of text. And like I say, you might not even have to do either of these. You might already find that if it's a really common paradigm, the information is already there. So I am gonna pop this in here. These are instructions. I can't remember which way round I actually set this up in my spreadsheet, which is terrible. So I'm just going to actually open that spreadsheet. So it's Z for cats and M for dogs. So Z for an image of a cat and M for an image of a dog. I've used Z and M because they're at either ends of the keyboard, so like people will just have their fingers resting on Z and M, and they can respond based upon the images. So we'll just put the and that's really all the instructions I'm going to give people. So I'll click OK, and you'll see those instructions show up just there. I'm just going to click on this button here. And again, you can, this is the button label, so what it actually says, you can change this based upon spreadsheets, etc., etc. It can get quite complex, but I'm just going to change it to continue. Okay. And once you've done that, you might want to preview that task. So let's just click preview task. Oh. So I've just to preview the task, I've just clicked create a spreadsheet. We are actually going to upload a spreadsheet, but we haven't really created much. So there we go. That's our first page. That's what our participants will see. So we'll click continue. Okay. And then it's finished, and you can download the data if you want to see what the data looks like, but we're going to go back to the editor. Okay, cool. So we've got some kind of instruction screen there. Add an extra space in there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want to add to this is we're going to want to add a fixation cross. So we will click here, and I've called it fixation with a capital F. So if we just press the plus there, we're going to call it fixation, like so, and then click OK. I'm going to press this little plus here, and we are going to add a fixation cross. Okay, and we'll click OK. Now, if we click on here, you'll see that there's an option here to show how long you want the fixation cross to be shown for. We're actually going to use a spreadsheet to control that. So we'll come back to that when we're actually setting up all of the options. I'm actually going to use from this spreadsheet the column called ITI, so that it's a random interval. It changes per fixation. Okay, so 750 milliseconds to 1100 milliseconds. But we'll just leave that for the time being because we're going to add the rest of the screens before we start playing with those. By the way, this screen doesn't really have that many options. The only option it really has is to hide this after a certain amount of milliseconds. The default is none. I'm going to leave the default as it is because I actually want people just to click continue once they're finished reading the instructions. I don't want it to move on by itself. So the next screen I'm going to add is I'm going to add a image screen with the option to press one of two buttons. Okay, either Z for cat or M for dog. So I'm going to add another screen. I'm just going to check what I called this on it. It's really important that you call your screens the same as what you've done them in your spreadsheet. Quite often you'll build your experiment first, so you'll be naming them first, and then you'll create the spreadsheet. But just sort of to help us out today, I've done it the other way around. So I've called this image display with a capital I and a capital D on there. So we'll call it image display like so, and we'll click OK. So we'll just add the screen we need. So there's an image there, but it doesn't really have a response. There's an image here with two clickable buttons and two text buttons there. But I actually want an image with two keyboard responses and feedback. I'm going to delete the feedback, to be honest with you. You might not need feedback, so we're going to take that off anyway, so that it is just an image with two keyboard responses. Just to show you, there's a whole load of pre-made screens that you can select. Like I can imagine everything is accounted for, and if it's not accounted for, then you can script it. Okay, but for the time being, I'm going to use this image with two keyboard responses. As with Qualtrics, I really do advise having a little play around with this, creating. You've got as many projects as you want, so create yourself a project and just play around with it. So let's add our keyboard responses. We've got a few more settings down here, but we won't worry about that too much at the moment. We're just going to set our little keyboard responses here. So if we select that one, this field will always be set to Z for dog. Sorry, Z for cat. Okay. So that will always be Z. And this will always be M. The keyboard responses themselves do not change. Okay. Whether it's correct or not does change, but we're going to deal with that in a little bit. Okay. Click on here. It's going to ask us to provide our image files. Now, we're going to leave this bit because we're actually going to use the spreadsheet to upload our image files, the actual image names, because that image name is going to change on a trial by trial basis. So we'll leave that for a second. And we'll go through these settings once we've uploaded our images and stuff like that. So for the time being, we're just going to leave all of these complex sort of bits and pieces at the moment. We're going to add our end screen. So the final screen I actually haven't added on there, which is very naughty. We'll just add that to the spreadsheet now. Call this finish. This is just going to be a page that kind of thanks people for taking part. It'll be just a text display screen, like so. So if you've got your spreadsheet that I shared with you, just open it up and add finish to the bottom, because like I say, I think I deleted it off the bottom by accident. And make sure you save that. Okay, so just open up that file that I've shared with you and type finish at the bottom. So we'll go back to here. We will add another text display question called finish. So we'll add another screen, click plus. Please enter a name for your display. Finish, and then click OK. Again, this is just going to be a rich text, so we'll just click the plus button there, add rich text, click OK, and we'll just edit that. So just click on the screen and type in there, thank you for taking part. And that's all you need to do there. Okay, we'll change this button here and we'll just change it to finish. Okay, and that's the basic structure of our experiment set up today. So what we're going to do now is we'll upload our video, our pictures of our cats and dogs. So if you click on stimuli, this is where you can add new stimuli. So go to wherever you've downloaded the files that I've shared with you. You should have a zip file called images. I shared it earlier on up the chat. It just should say images zip. So you just want to double click on that. Go to compressed folder tools and extract all. Extract all of the images so they're not it's cute, so that they're not compressed anymore, and know where they are. Okay, so mine are on my desktop, and then I'm just going to go to add new stimuli, choose files, and select my images. So you should have It's like 4 cats and 4 dogs. I'm going to hold down the shift button while I select these files so that I can select them all. So if you hold down the shift button and select them all, it will select them all. If you hold down the control button, you can select more than one file. Okay, and so you can add them all at once. So like I say, control button, you can click each one and add them like so. Or if you press the shift button and click on one and then the end one, it will select them all. So you can load them all at once. So we'll get all of them loaded at once. Click open. Found 8 files to upload is hopefully what you should have, and then click upload. We'll just wait a second for that to upload, and hopefully you should have all of your stimuli loaded, and they'll appear in a list like so. It's really cute. So the next thing we're going to do is upload our spreadsheet. Okay, so these are the images that we're going to use. We're going to randomly show these images, and we're going to upload a spreadsheet to basically control these. So if you click on spreadsheet, okay, it's kind of automatically created a little spreadsheet for me, but it's a bit rubbish, so we'll just remove it because it doesn't have everything in it. That was from when we previewed it. And like I say, I created this spreadsheet in Excel, and I used this particular help page. Just here, I'm going to put this in the chat. Essentially to get examples from. So I'll just pop this in the chat here so that you can reference this little help page. So, you know, it gives you a very simple single trial. It gives you, you know, linking displays. So having the instructions followed by a test, followed by a debrief, which is kind of what we've got here. A single block of instructions, and it tells you how to randomize it. So you add this column just up there. So this is where I've basically got the information from on how to create the spreadsheet, and I've then gone and built this spreadsheet using the information that I've got there. Blocks is really about you might randomize your blocks if you had lots of different types of task. Like, for example, I'm trying to think here, something like an N back. So you might have a 1 back, a 2 back, a 3 back, but it's a memory test for those people who don't know, where you have to kind of recall 1 letter or number back, or 2 letters and numbers back, or 3, and you might have those in a random order, but you might have like 20 trials within each one of those blocks. So you can randomize the blocks here. If you've got anything particularly complex, then, you know, don't be afraid to contact us, because we can assist you, and if we can't, then Gorilla certainly can. So this is quite a straightforward experiment that we're running today, and this is the spreadsheet. So make sure you've got the spreadsheet open just so you can have a little look at it before we upload it. So the first thing we're going to do is we want it to display our instructions. We then want it to display a fixation cross, followed by the image display. The answer, the correct answer, is in this column. This is the file it should show. This is an embedded data type just to make the results a bit easier to read. And this ITI is how long the fixation should be shown for. The fixations will be randomly mixed up, and the images will be randomly mixed up together. I feel like it does kind of take a little bit to get your head around that, but with a little bit of trial and error, it does kind of make sense. Make sure you've added finish to the end so it shows the finish block. And once you've got your spreadsheet and it's downloaded, you just go to File and Save, and then we'll close that. We're now going to upload this spreadsheet, so go back to your experiment. And you see you've got a couple of options here. Download spreadsheet, upload spreadsheet. We're going to upload. I'm going to choose the file. And I'm just going to go and get my spreadsheet here. So wherever you've got yours downloaded, just open that up. Once it's got it, click OK. And your spreadsheet should now be loaded in here. Now we've got some columns that we can refer to in some of the things that changes on our task structure. So the first thing we want to do is add this column so that it knows what picture to show in the image display. Make sure that answer is set to the correct answer, and make sure our ITI is set up so that our fixation cross shows for different amounts of time. So we're going to go back to the task structure just here, and we're going to scroll down to image display. Click here, and then you just want to click on this screen here and select spreadsheet. Okay. I've actually forgotten what I called that column, so I'm going to have to go back. It's embarrassing. So we want the column with the images, and it's images with a capital I. Make sure you get all the capitals right and things like that, because that will count. So spreadsheet is images. That's where the file names are, and we'll click OK. Okay, so that is now set to show images that the file names are in our spreadsheet, and we've uploaded those stimuli. So now we can go through some of this configuration. The first thing is hide after. So I'm going to set this to 1,000 milliseconds. Okay, so you only get 1 second to answer this, whether it's a cat or a dog. All show image at its actual size. If set, this will always display the image at its natural pixel size. This ensures a consistent size, but it may cause it to... I'm just going to leave that as it is at the moment. We will see what the images look like, see if we need to actually fix that. Okay, set image width to... Right, so there you can actually physically set the image for centimeters or visual degrees. Chances are you're probably not going to use that. So feedback. Whenever you're dealing with feedback in Gorilla, 1 is correct, as in 1 it happens, 0 it doesn't happen. So I don't want any feedback. So I'm going to switch both of these off. So we'll just set this to 0. And we'll set this to 0. So this isn't going to give any feedback if the response is correct or incorrect. Okay. We'll also change that to 0 milliseconds, like so. Okay. We don't want to show that. I'm not interested in feedback. If you need to give feedback to your participants, then you can, yeah, keep that in there. Okay. Right. So the next thing that we need to do is tell it whether this is going to be correct or incorrect. Okay. So what we want to do here is set the recording. So the response keyboard single. So click on that. So if this is Z, then we want to record the response as cat. Okay.
Hi, Carolyn.
Yeah.
You've got something come up in the middle of the screen that's just blocking the view where you're sharing it.
Have I?
Yeah, it just says the file can open in protected view.
I haven't got anything covering.
No.
I'm
I think.
confused.
Yeah, that.
Is
I think that is it on your computer. I'm not certain because I haven't got anything on my screen.
Yeah, it is on mine. Apologies. I'll go away.
That's all right. No problem. No problem, man. Okay. So this one, if M is pressed, we'll record it as dog. Okay. If a response value matches answer, so answer is a column in the spreadsheet, it represents the correct answer. Okay. If 1 enables sudden death, so what I want this to do is it takes your first answer. Okay, so you can't change your answer, and it basically gets rid of the screen. Okay, if setting only score the first answer as correct, so I'm going to set that as 1 as well. So got there. Record timeout settings as 0, so incorrect. Okay, we don't need to do any branching settings, and we don't need to do any embedded data settings at this point. Hopefully that should give us everything we need, I hope. So that looks pretty good. We need to set the ITI. So this column here is called ITI. So what we're going to do is go to the screen here, fixation. And where it says show fixation cross for 250 milliseconds, I'm going to click on that, and we're going to go to spreadsheet, and we're going to type in ITI. Okay. And that basically means the fixation cross will be a random millisecond, and it will come from the spreadsheet. Okay, I'm going to leave that before and after showing the fixation 100 milliseconds. I think it kind of helps just to have a short break between a fixation cross. I mean, be aware it's there if you keep it in there, just to sort of I don't know, like give people time almost to respond. So I'm kind of happy with that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through previewing the task. So if you click on preview task, it'll ask you which spreadsheet would you like to use. This should just be spreadsheet 1. It should just be the first spreadsheet, and then click launch. Work through the experiment. So I'm going to do mine here. So yeah, Z for an image of a cat and M for an image of a dog. Okay. Not the most challenging. Seems to be working okay. Seems to be doing what I want it to do. And there we go, finish to take part. We'll finish that there. And I can download a CSV just to make sure it is saving all the data that I want it to save from this part of the experiment. So just have a little look there. I'm gonna make this big. As you can see, there's a lot of crap that comes with these files. Qualtrics does it as well. It is important, but it isn't important to some extent. You know, most of the good information will be over at this end. Okay, so let's just set this to wrap text so we can actually see what's in there, and we'll just make it a little bit bigger. So yeah, a lot of this stuff you're going to be able to get rid of. Okay, so these are our reaction time, which is the big one. Make sure you only obviously want reaction time on the actual task itself. So screen 1 was our instructions, and it was a continue button. Then we had the fixation, and then I had my first response, and that took 581 milliseconds, etc. And you can see what kind of stimulus it was, etc., etc. So I mean, this seems to be recording everything that I want it to record. Okay. Got all the fixation and stuff like that as well, and what the actual responses were. So that seems to have recorded everything. So I'm kind of happy with that, and I'm just going to close this. I don't really want to save it, and I'm going to go back to the editor. So this task, I mean, it's very simple, but this should do. This should be good enough for my little experiment. So I am going to commit this to version 1, and I'm just going to put built the first version of cat or dog. I'll click commit. Okay, like so. So now I've got my questionnaire and I've got my actual task. I can now construct my overall experiment. So I'm going to go back to cat or dog just here. And I'm going to click create, and I'm going to click experiment. And again, I'm going to call it cat or dog. This is the overall experiment, so I'm just going to call it that without the Q or the experiment. So I click OK. It will start you off with something that looks a little bit like that, with a start and a finish. You can click on these and it will give you certain options. To edit this to include our tasks, you're going to want to click this bit here. Just click edit. Okay, and you'll have some options. I'm actually editing version 2 here because we kind of played around with it a little bit before. And all I'm really going to do here is I'm going to add my questionnaire, and then I'm going to add my experiment, and we're going to get this live and pop it up onto Sonar. So the first thing I'm going to do, add this questionnaire. It will say choose a questionnaire, and it will say, first of all, show results in your current project, and you can see the cat or dog questions are there. You can hit down and you can get questionnaires from other projects that you're working on, or you can get classic tasks and classic questionnaires from other areas, etc., etc. So if you click on classic questionnaires, you'll see that there are some that's already created for you. You can just add them. It's the same with the tasks as well. Like if you are using classic paradigms, it doesn't seem to like that because I'm adding the questionnaire. So we'll look at that when we add a task. So we're going to use the current project, and we're going to select cat or dog. I'm going to click OK. It'll do its thing, and it will move it over here. Now we're going to want to add cat or dog in the flow. So we want to draw a line from start to cat or dog just by holding the left mouse down, and you'll see now cat or dog questionnaire is in the flow. So the next thing we're going to do is add our task, and that is our cat or dog experiment. So we'll click on that and click OK. And we'll also add that to the flow, and we'll draw a little line from there to there, and then we want it to finish also. And that's really our structure built there. Notice it says questionnaire version 1, task version 1. If you do make any changes after this point, you are going to have to update those versions in there. It won't automatically update the versions for you. You've got some options there. If you click on it, double click on it, you can select use a different version, use a different questionnaire, etc. But do remember to update your versions. It's the same with these tasks. Just to give you an example as well of some of the pre-made tasks that are available, if you click the task and you go down to, we'll go to classic tasks memory. See, you've got things like digit span, primary, there's an MBAC there, etc. And these are already created for you. So if you do have a paradigm that is already created, like one of those classic paradigms, then just have a little look on the help page to see if it's already built for you, because you can just throw that in there then. And you can fully edit it as well. You don't have to take it as it comes. You could start with one of the examples and then edit it if it's not quite how you want it. So once you've got your experiment sort of set up like this, and you're kind of like, yep, that's cool, you can double click on these and they'll give you options, such as which group this start node pertains to. I want everyone to go through this. And finish, you can set things up like an onward URL. So for example, you could send someone from Qualtrics to Gorilla, back to Qualtrics, over to Sonar. Do you know what I mean? Like the possibilities to integrate all of these kind of things are endless. You can also add IDs so that between Qualtrics and Gorilla, it's got a randomly generated ID, so you know who these people are. Okay. I mean, they're still anonymous, but you know that this person did that response and that person did that response. So I'm going to commit this version and have this as my experiment, added task and questions, which is cool. So we'll commit this version. And then we've got an experiment. So the next thing we really need to do is set up our recruitment policy. So at the moment, the recruitment policy is disabled. I am going to change the recruitment target, and I'm going to set this to unlimited. Okay. And I'm going to click confirm. So this has an unlimited amount of people can be recruited. I don't have any limits on it. Now, why would you want limits? Well, if you've got different groups set up, you might want to limit how many, for example, if you were looking at people on the autistic spectrum versus neurotypical people, you might want to set that up. The other thing to keep in mind is people who don't have institutional accounts have to pay per participant, so they might want to limit that. You don't have to pay, you have unlimited, so you can set the recruitment target to infinite. For the time being, I'm going to change this recruitment policy just to a simple link. Okay, so a simple link is just a URL that you can share. You might want to set it up as a pilot first of all to send to your mates, just to make sure that works. What we will be using eventually is a recruitment service, and we will be using the Sonar system. There are other options obviously here. Most of these like for example, Prolific is awesome but really, really expensive. So you have to pay minimum wage. You can make money on Prolific if you want to answer some questionnaires, and you can use that money to actually pay for responses on your account. So let's say you answered £100 worth of questionnaires. You could then use that £100 instead of cashing it out to pay other people to do your questionnaires. Some of you will be sending people on from Qualtrics. Initially, we'll recruit people in Qualtrics through Sona and then pass them on. So, like, there are other options, but most of you, it's either going to be Qualtrics or Sona systems. But for the time being, just select link and we'll click simple link, click OK. And it'll give you some warnings, you know, use case, when do you want to use it, and things like that. The links are not personalized. If the same person clicks on the link a second time, they'll be treated as a new participant, etc., etc. So, you know, heed those warnings. So I'm going to use this policy for now. And our study is live. So I'm now going to select this URL and I'm going to give it to you guys in the chat. So if you could, I don't know why it's gone all highlighted and weird. It's all highlighted. So if you could just click on that link and do the experiment for me, that would be fabulous. We're sort of watching on here to see the participants just here. This should hopefully change as you click on that link, and I can tell is this a trick to see who's paying attention? Who knows? Look at you, 11 alive. Cool, man. So we're just recruiting here, and hopefully it won't take too long. Hopefully you'll be able to tell the difference between cats and dogs. I like the dog with the little glasses on. I think that's pretty cute. So you can keep an eye on your recruitment here. I just keep refreshing it just to see who's on it, etc. A couple more people just finishing up. That can't be true, surely. Okay, I'm going to move on just to not certain if these two people are actually still making a decision about whether cats are cats or dogs are dogs. Once you've collected some data, you can go to participants, like I said before, and you can see their status. This is the random public ID that has been allocated to them. If you are working with Qualtrics, we can help you set up a public ID that is passed on from Qualtrics to Gorilla so that you can marry the two responses together. It will still be anonymous, but you will be able to see which one's which. Let's refresh this. I think these must have maybe crashed or something. Either way, we'll move on. So the next thing that you are going to do is obviously download your data. And all you really have to do is go to data, manage experiment data, and you've got time frames. So if you just wanted to look at today's, have a check on what's happened today. You can also create it so that it's in a shorter form, so that you have one row per participant instead of having lots of a long version. This is probably going to be relatively useful for you when you're analyzing, because each participant will be on a single line. So I've just generated that data and we can download it. click save. It's in a zip file. So this is the questionnaire, and this is the actual task. So there we go. Got all my data from all my people. It's pretty good. Got all your reaction times there. It's quite long reaction times. And then you would move it on into a different system in order to analyze. So you've got pretty much everything. The key things are to make sure that you are collecting all the data that you need, and that it is accurate. And if that isn't the case, then you would need to go back to your tasks and essentially edit them. So what I want to do now is just quickly change the recruitment policy to Sona, so that you can see how to set it up with a Sona account. So you just go back here and select change recruitment policy. And in this one, we're going to use recruitment service. So click on recruitment service and then click Sona systems. Click OK. And it will basically give you some instructions here. So recruit your participants through Sona. Use this when you want to recruit via Sona. To connect your Gorilla experiment to Sona systems, paste the URL above the study URL field in Sona systems. Gorilla automatically captures the survey code and stores it. On your finish node under onward URL, enter your Sona systems return URL, and Gorilla will automatically do it. So we'll use this policy like so, and Gorilla has kindly provided us with a link that we can use in Sona. So we'll go over to Sona now, and I will log in. For those people who weren't with us this morning, if you have 12 credits and you are an undergraduate, you can have a researcher account. I think me and Steph kind of thought we normally run an automatic update, but I can't remember whether we've actually done it. So you may not have had the researcher account added just yet, but trust me, we will do it. So if you have 12 credits, we will add researcher to your account. And once you've got 12 credits on Sona and you log in, you'll see these two options, either participant or researcher. Just click on researcher and it will take you to your studies hub. You see I've got two studies there, one from this morning. Nice one, Steph. So if you've got 12 credits, you will now have the researcher option. You're a legend. If you haven't got 12 credits, you've still got time to get 12 credits. You can get the additional credits. You won't have access to the participation pool unless you have 12 credits. It's give alike. Master students and PhD students, you don't need to get 12 credits because your courses are slightly different. Masters is very short. But it is good form to take part in some people's research, and it kind of helps you get used to these kind of bits and pieces as well. So when you're on Sona, you want to click create a new study, and it is an online external study. As I was saying earlier this morning, be very careful at this point because you can't change this once you've selected it. You'll have to create a new study. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't take that long to create a study, to be honest with you. Standard studies, these are lab studies, which I am assuming most of you, because you're doing this training, you are not going to actually do. If you're doing some kind of video conferences in just up there or a similar sort, you should set it up as a standard study. So like if you're doing sort of an interview, you can set it up as a standard study and then video conference it. But because we're going to be using a URL to an online service, you want to select online external service and you want to select credit. Okay, and then click continue. 1 credit is 1 hour. Half an hour is 0.5 credits. 15 minutes is 0.25 credits. You can err on the side of generosity, but don't take the mick. Okay, don't, you know, if your study takes 15 minutes, don't give them 1 credit, because we won't pass that through. If your study takes 10 minutes, then it's fine to give them like 0.25 credits. Your study takes 25 minutes, you can give them half a credit. Okay, just don't take the mick, really. The study name, I'm just going to call this example. Actually, do you know what? I'll give it its true name, cat or dog. The brief abstract, again, this is just a description that will show up in the study list. The other thing to note, some people on their study name, they'll put like little stars and stuff like that because they think it puts it to the top of the study list. The study list is randomly organized. So whilst you might see it at the top, the participants won't. It will be randomly organized to the participants. So just put the study, the actual name, the title. In here we can put a description of the actual study. Any eligibility requirements, must be over 18, etc. Must be left-handed, whatever your eligibility requirements are. I mean, I think my study probably takes about 5 minutes. The least amount of credits you can give is 0.25, so I'll leave that as it is. I don't need anyone to do any preparation, and I'm not going to add anyone else. This FREP code is your ethics approval. So apologies if you're in the training this morning. Once you've submitted an ethics application, you will get a letter. It will most likely be emailed to you, and it will include an approval code, and you need to put that in Sona. And then you need to select an expiration date. My recommendation is you probably put in your hand-in date for that. So I'm just going to put the 1st of December. I'm going to pop it as an active study. Where it says approved, you will need to request approval from us, and I will show you where to do that. So just don't worry about it at the moment. Active study, yes. Ignore the, well, if you've got any prerequisites or other advanced settings, i.e. they've got to do this study, or if they've done one study, then they can't do this study, you can include it in here. This is a web-based study. Should the survey participants be identified only by a random unique code, you can set that to yes to keep it random. And just here it says studied URL. So we need to go back to Gorilla, this, and copy this study URL. So just copy that, and then we'll pop it into there. So Sona is it is just looking at that. Yep. So Sona is intelligent. No, that's my Qualtrics code, isn't it? Oops. Don't know why that hasn't. Oh. Steph, help. Oh, look, it's just, for some reason, it's pasted absolutely everything. So just going to click here again. Sorry, that seemed to have pasted the code from... there we go. That's the Gorilla one. It seems to have originally pasted the code from Qualtrics. So this is the correct one, research.sc. And as you can see, Sona's intelligent. It picks up that you are using Gorilla. And for the time being, that's all we need to do on this end. And we can leave all of those and just click add this study. Now, it will take you to the study menu. We do need to do something on the Gorilla end, as in we need to put in a completion URL. Okay, so we want it to go back to Sona. So I'm just going to select this here. Click copy, go back to Gorilla, go to my design here, and where it says finish, double click there, and it says enter the URL to redirect participants to when they reach this node. Okay. Okay, sorry, I forgot to press edit. My bad. So yeah, make sure you click edit before trying to edit it. Onward URL, just paste that in there, and we'll click save. Okay, so now what that will do is once it's gone through there, it will send people back to Sona and they will get a credit for when they've done it. We can just go back to Sona and make sure that's all set up. This all looks fine now, and the last thing you'll need to do is send the request here to Psychology Tech to have your study approved. Click send request, and that will send an email to our email address. We will come and check that all of the redirection kind of works, and we'll just log in very, very quickly just to give it an overview. Content and things like that, you should have already checked this with your supervisor. To share an experiment, I'm just going to cancel these changes. No, actually, I'm not. I'm going to commit them because it's got the redirect URL. To share your piece of research with your supervisor, if you go to projects, you'll see there's an option here that says actions. That's not it. Okay, sorry. You need to click on the actual project and then click settings and collaborate. I do know how to spell your name, honestly, Steph. For some reason, it's gone a bit crazy.
Excellent.
I'm not quite certain what happened there. But you can type in, oh, this has just picked up every Stephanie that has an account. If you put in someone's email address, it will send them an email and be like, will you collaborate with me? If they've already got an account, then that will come up. If they haven't got an account, then they'll receive an email request. And that is pretty much an overview of Gorilla. And again, like, that is quite a whistle-stop tour. Please do, we're recording this, so we will add this to our information and stuff like that, but please do come and check out our online resources on Sona. Sorry, not Sona, Canvas. I'm obsessed with Sona. And if you get really stuck, then just, let us know and we can try and help you. We also do have access to Gorilla support here. So this is all of the Gorilla support. You can go through our Canvas page. There's onboarding videos, getting started, how to build a task, lots and lots of information available. So yeah, just got 10 minutes at the end. Are there any questions? Like I say, I can imagine you're all a bit like, that's a lot of information. I need to absorb that before I have questions. But is there anything immediate that anyone has?
Hi, Carolyn.
Hello.
Can you use video content as well?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Video stimuli. I think so. If you are planning on using some kind of video, I'd be kind of interested in that, because I've kind of got I kind of need to do the same as well. I've never used video content on here. I've only ever used picture and stuff like that. So I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Because of the participant ID, is the study still anonymous? You were wondering about audio content. You can, just as a side note, video and audio does work on Qualtrics, depending on what you need to do. So, for example, if you were, for example, showing a video to affect someone's emotions and then giving them a questionnaire, you could probably just do that quite easily on Qualtrics. I've got a feeling, I can't imagine you can't, there would be an issue with audio and video, just because, oh, look, you're a legend, man. Steph's my favourite. Nice one. So, yeah. It looks like you can add audio, and I would imagine video must be possible. Would be weird. Because of the participant ID, is the study still anonymous? Yeah, it's a randomly generated seed. Okay, so I mean, hypothetically, depending how you've set up Sonar, potentially you could figure it out. Okay, if on Sonar you don't set up, I'm going to see if I can go back or if it will. Yeah, so on Sonar you should set this: should survey participants be identified only by a random unique code. Make sure you select yes on there. There is ways, I guess, to kind of figure it out, but I mean, it's a lot of work for not a lot of gain. Do you know what I mean? Because on Sonar, you have your student email, and there will be a code associated between Sonar and Gorilla, so that we can give you a credit if you've come from that participant pool. But you'd potentially have to know how to look that up, if that makes sense. Any other questions? Cool. Okay then. Well, if there's no more questions, and I can see like Steph's put a couple of email links in there, so that's pretty cool. If there's no more questions, then I will. We can leave it at that. And do you need an enrollment code? No, we can. So if you send an email to psychology-tech at aru.ac.uk. If you've already signed up, just let us know what email you've signed up with, and we can basically add you to our account. If you haven't signed up, then send us an email to there, and we will send you an invite. Unfortunately, with this one, like we probably will look at setting an enrollment code up at some point, possibly. We haven't had this subscription very long, so we're kind of new on some things, so we haven't actually set the enrollment code up yet. So we're just doing manual accounts. Anything else? Cool. All right then, guys. Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated. I hope you have a delightful rest of the day. Well done for everyone who has sat through 4 hours of me talking at them. You've got some staying power there. Cheers. Thank you for coming. Awesome. So take care, guys. See you later.